All right, we're coming in one more time. We got Steve Greenfield on the show again. It's like Groundhog Day today. It's August 16th. We're rolling it hot. Going to talk about VinFast, Warren Buffett, and Jim Farley's trip in an EV. I don't know if it was across the country, but he went far enough that he had a couple charging mishaps.
There were some hiccups.
Yeah, there's some hiccups. There you go. We'll call them hiccups. Steve, welcome to the show. How you doing this Wednesday?
I am doing well, Paul. Thanks for having me back, my friend.
Oh, it's always a good time. I have some special stories picked out just for you today, as they tie into what you're doing. First, want to just mention again that ASOTU CON is coming in hot. And for those of you that might just think ASOTU CON is like a lot of fun, and like when I say the South by Southwest of the auto industry, it's not bands and parties. I mean, there will be a great band there. There will be a great party there. However, we have over 35 keynotes, panels, workshops covering a wide variety of topics. We're talking about scaling small groups into large group sales and BDC, fixed ops, online retailing. What the heck are you supposed to do with a CDP if you get one? With some amazing people talking about that, and representation from 3 of the 5 major public groups. And these are practitioners, people that are in the dirt. We have, Michael Fader, who is the VP of Mile One Holdings, local there to the Baltimore area, is going to be there. Mike Kavanaugh with Lithia Driveway, Liza Borges, who many of you in the audience know very well, CEO, president of Carter Myers, Ed Roberts, CEO of Bozard Ford Lincoln, is just about to release his new book, Mile One Leadership. If you've never met Ed, prepare to have your life changed, and so many more. Steve, I think you might be showing up too. You're going to be there?
I might be there, my friend. I might be there.
Just might, wink, wink. So look, if you haven't gotten your tickets, they're on sale until September 1. They're $100 off, and you can go to ASOTUCon.com to see our full list. Well, the full list of speakers we've announced. There's probably about 50% of the speakers we're going to have there are live on the site. And just yesterday, we haven't, I guess we're announcing it now. We're having a custom guitar made, custom electric guitar made, and it's going to be auctioned off to support our charity Vehicles for Change, who's an amazing organization taking formerly incarcerated individuals, training them to be ASC certified techs, and they have a 100% job placement ratio. So that's pretty good.
That's really great, man. That's really great. Good for you.
Yeah. So a lot of things to be part of. All right, let's get into some news. So yesterday, Vietnamese electric maker VinFast, EV maker, they made a remarkable debut on the Nasdaq, skyrocketing their valuation to $85 billion, propelling it past automotive giants like Ford and General Motors. The company shares went up over 270% from its initial SPAC IPO price, making it the year's top performing SPAC debut on the exchange. So basically, there's a couple characterizations. Steve, we're going to need you to explain some of this. They're characterized as a low float company with only a limited number of shares available for trading post redemption, makes the stock, they say, really susceptible to fluctuations. The founder of VinFast is actually Vietnam's richest individual. So I guess he's like the Vietnamese Elon Musk, maybe. He holds a dominant control over the company, owning about 99% of it. Steve, tell us about VinFast, and like, why should we be paying attention? Where'd they come from? Give us the breakdown.
Well, I'll always be looking at, new OEMs, new automakers coming into the U.S. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to underscore this. This is a stock that's going to have incredible volatility. Don't go out there and start buying it right now. If I was a hedge fund manager taking long and short positions, you might bet that it might come back down to earth here in very, very short order. I imagine that if you and I were having this conversation tomorrow, we're going to see a very different market today, because as you said, there's very few shares out there. So therefore, index funds, et cetera, or even those funds that have to have some automotive placement had to buy yesterday. So they had to allocate some kind of fill orders yesterday. And I think that we're going to see it come back down to earth. Doesn't make any sense for an upstart automaker who has only sold a handful of vehicles in the US to be valued more than Ford and GM. But we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, dealers should be paying attention to the product. Frankly, and honestly, the product has been pretty lackluster so far. Vehicle range is low, road and track. Looked at the vehicle and said the quality is really poor. But, with any of these first generation vehicles, we can't sort of underestimate sort of what this company might look like in 5 or 10 years.
They're certainly very well resourced. They seem to be pretty good at the PR game too, which I think is easy to underestimate, but like all of the buzz when they brought a bunch of reporters over to really wine them and dine them, show them the product, and they shipped their first shipment of cars over to the US. I think it was like 999 or some number. Over in this big branded barge. It was awesome. And then, I think the data was like the first vehicle sold in the US right now, they're tracking, it costs them about $500,000 per vehicle to sell in the US. So they're definitely back, but they got a bit of the PR game going and people are paying attention. Speaking of people who I think have mastered the PR game.
Stop. Segue. Time.
Might not expect it, but Warren Buffett is one of those that I feel like has mastered the PR game, and his Berkshire Hathaway significantly reduced their stake in GM by 45%, slashing their shares from 44 million to 22 million. The move was revealed in a recent SEC filing, comes amidst growing investor concerns about GM's notable stock fluctuations. The motivation behind the sale is undisclosed. So GM chose not to comment on the reduction, but Berkshire Hathaway also didn't say anything. So the exact reason is undisclosed. However, we can see that they also bought about as much stock in home builder companies. So it looks like it's kind of an asset reallocation, but speculation, is he worried about the strike, or are they just kind of tired of the GM stock? What are your thoughts on the move?
Yeah, so Warren Buffett, obviously someone to watch when he makes moves like this. I mean, arguably the best investor, the highest performing investor of all time. And, but remember also, Warren Buffett is no neophyte when it comes to, automotive investments. He owns Berkshire Automotive here in Berkshire Hathaway Automotive here in the US. He's formerly Van Tile. And so he has exposure to the retail channel, so intimately knows what's going on with retail.
Also owns what? Progressive or Geico, right?
Owns Geico, so the insurance side, and then also made a significant investment in BYD, which is the world's largest EV manufacturer now over in China, and has battery technology investments too that other automakers are using. So and he's largely drawn down from that investment and done extremely well. So I mean, this is not somebody who is new to automotive whatsoever. So yeah, probably is some combination of one, maybe he's realized most of the value that he was going to capture within GM stock is been captured, and now he's rotating it into another vertical. But also, he's also an investor that typically buys and holds. 10, 15 years is Absolutely. Not atypical for him. So he might be looking at this and saying, look, there's enough uncertainty. Yes, in the short term, as you said, with the UAW talks, but more longer term, we need to be really thoughtful here around what does this mean if the world's best investor is saying, I'm not really willing to take a position in an automaker, a US-based automaker for the next 10 or 15 years. We talk about all the time, Paul, there's a lot of change going on across the automotive landscape right now. And he may not be best served. He might like the retail channel better than the OEM channel, given all the uncertainty that's going on.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And for sure, I mean, no one would ever call Warren Buffett a reactionary investor. And I think that's a key critical point. And his access to data and trends is far beyond what I can think of, but I'm sure it's just incredibly sophisticated, and he's got a heck of a track record. But again, I think the lack of, I don't think there's going to be a lot of market panic over this, because I think savvy investors understand, like, he's playing a different game of 3D chess. Rumor does have it, though, or maybe not rumor, like, he's a GM driver. He drives a Cadillac.
Right.
So, I mean, he still owns 20 million shares, is still a decent stake.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't think he's going over to VinFast anytime soon.
I don't think so either. Well, speaking of transitioning to an EV.
Stop. Segue.
Time. So Jim Farley recently took a road trip. Is a great, again, back to even like people who are really great at PR and doing a great job with getting brand attention without paying any money for it. Ford CEO Jim Farley recently took a road trip in the F-150 Lightning EV along Route 66, testing the capabilities. And during his journey, he encountered some challenges with charging.
Imagine that.
Being able to charge. It's pretty great. In a video posted on X, formerly Twitter, Farley described the charging issues as a really good reality check on the difficulties consumers are facing with public chargers. And to address these, some recent announcement, Ford collaborating with Tesla, giving Ford vehicles access to the over 12,000 superchargers, and their certified dealers are installing fast chargers. But this is a real fun one to see him going out there and kind of validating a lot of the hesitancy people might have in this adoption curve.
Well, good for him being so transparent. I mean, he didn't have to really report on this at all. But, as we saw, a couple of months back, JD Power came out and said in Q1 of this year, 21% of chargers were either offline or incompatible or not working when consumers tried them. And that compared versus 4% for Tesla users on their supercharger network. So,
wow.
Yeah, I think a huge difference, right? And I think a lot of that has been a tailwind for a lot of these automakers, including Ford, announcing they're going to be moving towards the Tesla standard overall, right? Which should help. There's other issues there. Elon Musk may have more control and visibility into who's charging on his network, and may be able to throttle different charging, speeds to GM vehicles or Ford vehicles versus Tesla vehicles. But I mean, we've got a big problem in America where when 1/5 of the chargers don't work. And I think Farley's putting his finger on that, right? It's more validation for moving to the Tesla standard, and good for him for being transparent about this problem, because his customers are going to be feeling this firsthand, and it's great that he's highlighting it.
I have an anecdotal story. A friend of both of ours, Todd Caputo, a second gen dealer, he said he has I think he has a Model S, and he was driving on a road trip. He said, I was at a hotel and the charger was broken, so I couldn't charge it. And I knew that the hotel had a charger, and it was a nice hotel, so he figured it would work. He said the desk person went outside with a rubber mallet and knocked it on the side. He said, that's what we have to do to get it to work.
Yep, there you go. State of the art.
Yeah, knock it on that, and then you feel good plugging that into your vehicle and expecting a good experience. I'd like to talk for a minute, Steve, to wrap up the show, about some of the work you're doing with the investment funds and the tech investments, specifically about one that you mentioned in your monthly or your weekly email, a company called Treehouse. Tell us a little bit about this, because it helps us solve and address this issue.
Well, great. Yeah, I mean, it fits very nicely into this Farley conversation as well. So we're really excited. The latest investment that we've made out of our dealer fund, where dealers are the investors and we're investing in solutions that help dealers, is this company called Treehouse. As you can see up there, Paul's put up on the screen, and really, really excited. One of the challenges, as dealers feel firsthand, is when you sell an EV, more often than not, consumers are going to say, well, what about the charger in my home? And many dealers have sort of worked with a local electrical contractor to, dispatch them out to the consumer's home to see if they can go put a charger in the home and get it installed in a safe way that's consumer centric. The challenge is, we hear horror stories all the time that there are cost overruns. Mm-hmm. Paul buys an F-150 Lightning. The Ford dealer says, hey, I've got this electrical contractor. The electrical contractor comes out and says, Paul, I got to run more cable, or I've got to put in a new fuse panel for you. It's actually going to be an extra $1,000. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of finger pointing. There's friction. Who's to blame? Is it the dealer? Is it the electrical contractor? Ultimately, it doesn't look good for the dealer.
That's right? Tough problem to solve.
It's a tough problem to solve. And there's all kinds of companies out there helping dealers install EV chargers. Now, where Treehouse comes in is they use data based on your neighborhood and the blueprints of your house ahead of time to give you an instant quote that they stand behind. So now the dealer can be very transparent with the consumer, very easy to integrate interface where a consumer can feel, okay, there's not going to be any cost overruns. I'm getting a price up front that's backed by this company, and it's very, very consumer centric. They roll in all the incentives, so make sure they optimize the incentives, and they will negotiate the local permitting process. So there's no surprises with either getting a permit or the cost of a permit as well. So it's a very nice product. The last thing I'll say is, we're never going to be able to roll, the cost of the EV charger into a monthly payment.
You said we're never going to be able to. Unless
we can guarantee that price up front at point of sale. Because how on earth do you roll it into a monthly payment and then find out later it's an extra $1,000?
Yeah,
you can't go back and open the deal jacket and then increase the monthly payment for the consumer. So we also think, Treehouse is going to be pivotal to helping dealers at point of sale roll that charging install into the point of sale and into the monthly payment, and enable F&I products to start to say, hey, can we also roll in maintenance and service of your EV charger at home? So there's all kinds of new propagation, new revenue streams that we think this will open up for dealers. And we're finding preliminarily a dealer makes another $400 to $700 per sale transaction, not insignificant profit.
Very significant
when they bundle this in.
Very significant. I think that just the question of it and be able to advertise and offer that, like, we can handle this for you. I mean, if anyone right now who tries to get work done on your house, I've had this situation happen lots of times in the last few years. I know a lot of other people have too, where it's tough to even get someone to come out and like change a window or get back to you with a quote. So the thought of having to navigate a contractor situation is already daunting. And anyone who haven't done it is like, oh, this is going to be tough. And then the pricing, and then the lack of familiarity about installing like a relatively higher voltage, accessory, probably somewhere there's not a lot going on, right? And it could be, I love the solution. I love that you've kind of like helping bring this to dealers to serve them. Steve, what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? Because a lot of times the investments that you're making help me think in a different way about what's out there, because you are all out on the frontier, like looking at all these companies and seeing what they're doing. What's the best way for people to follow along with what you're doing?
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn, Steve Greenfield, or just go to automotiveventures.com and sign up for an Intel report. Comes out once a week, Monday mornings at 7 a.m., and it's free.
There you go. Can't beat free. Well, Steve, thanks again for co-hosting the last 2 days. It's been a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll see you around in several places, most notably ASOTU CON in September. If you haven't yet, get your tickets, ASOTUCON.com.